as I want to give everybody here the opportunity to give us your quick 11-second elevator pitch on who you are, who you're with, and which association won your award that you're going to be talking about with us today. So we'll start with Melissa.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming. You in the back. Melissa Vela Williamson. I'm very proud to be on this panel with this elite group here. So thank you, AMA, for the invite. I own a PR boutique firm called MBW Communications. I'll be celebrating 10 years of business next year. So my baby's growing up and I'm very excited about that. But I've been especially proud to serve and use public relations for social good, particularly in our community. There are so many needs and resources that aren't connected, so I'm very proud to have served over 50 nonprofits, and one of them I'll be talking about today called the Nonprofit Council, and I'll be talking about winning first place in the agency category for their dual anniversary campaign.
Nice, thank you so much. Josh, you're up.
Hello everyone, I'm Josh. There's great people back there. Thank you all for coming. Thanks for the invite, AMA. With 11 seconds, I guess I won't waste too much time thanking you.
You have 4 seconds.
I'm the principal and the chief creative officer at Texas Creative. We're a full-service agency headquartered right here in San Antonio. We are here to talk about our campaign for Just Pots. They're a retail location selling pots with an S. And we were awarded first place at the Marketing Excellence Awards early this year in the Retail B2B campaign category. And then we're super surprised to be awarded with Best of Show for the same campaign. So thank you guys.
Hello, my name is Yolanda Haymon. I am the Director of Account Service at GDC Marketing and Ideation. So the campaigns that we're going to be talking about today, specifically because we won an AMA award in the agency category, we came in third place this year with Texas CASA. So that's Court-Appointed Special Advocates, and the campaign that we did for them. That same campaign went on to win a Silver Addy here in San Antonio. Also, in the same category of that Silver Addy, we won a Gold Addy for our work with Texas Department of Transportation, and specifically the Don't Mess with Texas campaign. We had a campaign featuring Ethan Hawke. So that one did win a Gold Addy, went on into regional and nationals.
Very cool.
Or using the same microphone.
You're sharing.
Hello, my name is Marcus Hernandez. I am the Principal and Executive Creative Director for both FPO Marketing and Large Purchasing Company. The campaign that I'm going to be talking about today is Waterloo's Wonderful Extra. It won Best of Show here at the local Addies. It went on to win as well as in the regional category. It also was featured in Theo's Ads of the World, and was also awarded the International Phoenix Awards.
Very nice. Nice, very nice. Thank you so much. That's awesome. So, just to show of hands real quick, is anybody here in the room participated in the American Marketing Association San Antonio's Vela Awards? Yes, no, maybe. So we have them every year. It's a tremendous opportunity to showcase the work that you do. We don't judge our own awards, sadly, because, we have a lot of friends here. So we actually have other chapters do them. We have Oklahoma City, Tulsa, New York, Detroit. There's a couple of other ones. There's a bunch. And so it's just a really great opportunity. So awards are really important to marketeers. If they're not to you, then you need to reconsider that, because it gives you the chance to kind of flaunt what your marketing team or your marketing efforts are doing out in the community. It gives you validation on the great, amazing work that you're doing, and then it also kind of opens up other networking doors for you. So that'll be some of the things that we're talking about today. And after our panelists answer a few questions that we have for them, I encourage you to drum up your own questions that you may have, whether it just be kind of interested in how they're developing their campaigns, how they go to awards or write those particular award submissions, or if you just want to kind of probe them to get some insights on how to be better marketers. And that's part of the networking advantages that AMA has. So, first question will be, and you guys can either fight for mics because I'm all about a mic death battle here, or you can pass them along civilly. I guess we live in a society, whatever. First question that I have is, how did you align the campaign objectives with broader business goals? Who wants to tackle that one? We can rock, paper, scissors. Doesn't matter.
I'm going for bonus points. Go first.
Yes.
So for us, this was relatively straightforward as far as broader business goals. Increase sales for a company selling high-end pots. So it was a little bit of an awareness play also. Just Pots, great name, although they were open. They were great partners to say, is our name the problem? Why aren't we getting the traffic that we need? They've got this great multi-acre outdoor location filled with tens of thousands of pots. They've got so many, they've organized them by color. So we knew if we could get people there, the experience would, align with whatever we promised. So it was a whole lot of pots in one convenient spot. So it was awareness play, and then also increasing foot traffic, which was more difficult for us to measure. But the real metric for them was an increase in sales, which I won't spill the beans on that, but we looked at it year over year, and it was a very successful campaign.
How did you tie those two campaign strategies together, from awareness to foot traffic?
It was a mix. Credit to Crystal Vela and our in-house media team and our account service team for doing research to identify target markets for. This is a very, it was a kind of a luxury item to begin with. So the media mix was a little bit of traditional outdoor awareness and directional turn left at Redland Road kind of things, but then very targeted digital ads, which we all know, you can really focus in on your target audience that way. So that broad mix from something as simple as an outdoor board with a strategic placement for directions, and then highly targeted digital ads is what I would say really kind of blended that together to make it work.
Nice. Okay. All right, Josh, broke the ice. You're up.
It's organic since we're sharing. So raise your hand or your fork if you've heard of the Big Give. Okay? Raise your hand. Yeah, we're in Big Give season for sure. And I think today is the 24-hour activation. Okay. So you know a little bit about the Big Give. Raise your hand if you've heard of the Nonprofit Council. Okay, a little bit better. Well, you're welcome. That's because of our campaign last year. So my situation was a little complex because our client, the Nonprofit Council, was hiring us to help them celebrate their 20th anniversary year last year. And I said, okay, of course, but we need to start with a strategic communications plan because I think there's more we need to talk about than just the Big Give. We had done the Big Give and more of a tactical plan the last few years, very successful, met their fundraising goals, but we didn't have the whole project, right? And as we talked and did the planning and the research and whatnot and dug in, I said, I think you have a little bit of a brand identity problem. Your architecture's off. People know of the Big Give, but they don't necessarily associate it with the Nonprofit Council, which is a nonprofit by itself, membership-based organization that's very well regarded in the leadership circles of nonprofits and professionals who want to network with CEOs of nonprofits, right? And so essentially all that boils down to is really, as we do with clients, influencing in a good way, say, let's do something more strategic. And so as we did the planning, came out, one of the outcomes that we were thinking about and realizing was, hey, it's also the 10th event anniversary of Big Give. And 2023 is when everything was kind of coming out from COVID, but our money was still, kind of missing, and inflation was starting to really hit people. So we really had to work in a multifaceted way to help reintroduce and build awareness of the Nonprofit Council as its own organization and what's essential about it and why what they do matters within the anniversary stage, but also how substantial and critical nonprofits are in our community. Another message that really helped everybody, we needed in 2023, still need today. But we also had the anniversary coming up of the Big Give, and they had fundraising goals. So the goals we helped set with them during strategic planning was what we measured against with objectives.
So when it comes to coming out of COVID, did you find yourself having to recalibrate some of the metrics or KPIs that you previously used for campaigns for 2023?
A lot of it has to, yes, but and very public sentiment PR messaging waves. So the plan itself and why I would even put it up for AMA awards is absolutely integrated marketing comms. Right? You can't do one side of communication these days. People are everywhere, our audiences are everywhere. But with that public relations point of view, I really measured where's people, like, where are they at with their sentiment? How are they feeling about their money? What drives them to donate it in this atmosphere today? So what COVID taught me, if nothing else, is we have to measure not only what's worked in the past and use that, but like what's the evaluation of the sentiment and motivation now? And so what messaging will drive and align with that?
Nice. Okay. Marcus, I see you over there in the think tank. How did you tackle aligning campaign objectives?
I'm gonna step back first and kind of give you an overview of what we're doing before we narrow in and go ahead and tell you how we choose objectives.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our Olympic campaign was grounded in the brand's customization differentiator for us among the Hispanics. One of the extra was being celebrates the extra we are. We're 100% Latino and 100% American, and of course Whataburger fans. So it was all about being extra and putting on your extra. Our goal was to increase the visits, transactions, and check averages. Hispanic consumers over-index in add-ons, and that was a natural occurrence. If you go to my house, everybody has a special order of what people do. So my thing is like jalapenos with grilled onions. So our entire aspect was we wanted to empower people to go ahead and put on add-ons. Because honestly, when you go to another restaurant or another QSR, you kind of get beef sometimes when you ask, hey, can I have this extra tomato or something? They're like, it's kind of, they're doing you a favor for putting on. And Whataburger was kind of the extra. They were open and were happy to do this stuff. And this is kind of one of the USPs that we really drived up in order to drive traffic and check averages.
It's all you learn.
Okay. All right, so I'll talk a little bit about our client, Texas CASA, which stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates. They came out of the pandemic with a huge need, with a rise in children in foster care and a decrease in number of volunteers. So when you ask them what's their number one goal, it was we need more volunteers. And they do, from the Texas side, they help service and support all of those local chapters across the state. So GDC worked with them starting with research. So we know they have recruitment campaigns, but how do we go in and really find what's going to move that needle for them? So starting with research, we found it has to be awareness. As much as you want to push, go sign up and be a volunteer, people weren't exactly sure what it entailed, how much time it entailed, what the training was. They thought they needed to already have some sort of, expertise in child law or something of that sort. When it's not. It's all about that it could be you, which is the name of the campaign. It can be you in your daily life, whatever it is you're doing. That CASA will provide you that support. So how we aligned it is we're going to get you the recruits, but we need to really focus on what it is to be a CASA first and get people on board with that can be them. So.
Okay, perfect, great. So any one of you up here at any point when those objective KPIs started coming in and you looked at it and you're thinking, oh my God, I'm going to win an award. Was there ever a point where you were genuinely surprised on how successful the campaign that we're talking about today was? You can choose your own heart, it's okay.
To me, is when we started getting feedback from the actual people that work at Whataburger, and they were like, dude, this stuff, like, you're speaking to me, this is real.
Yeah.
It was during Hispanic Heritage Month, it felt authentic and it felt real. And that is like, we're here when the C-suite is telling you, we're hearing from our own employees that they really like it. It was something special for us to create something that really resonated with.
It's always really nice when you have that click, right?
Yeah.
Like when HEB came out with my HEB, they're like, yes, because that's what people were already saying.
Yeah.
So beautifully done. I'll say for me, the reason that we apply for awards, because we all know it takes a lot of time and investment of energy. It's nice to have the framework already in place so you can measure appropriately, but it was kind of two things, right? We knew our client's top KPI was their fundraising goal when all was said and done. We wanted the organization to be known, the nonprofit council to be known, so it was more sustainable as a membership-based organization. But Big Give is their largest activation. It does draw members, so it's a win-win there.
Right.
So we knew we had to raise over $5 million. So when we crossed $5 million in giving, we're like, yay, client's happy, this is a success, right? Top KPI. And then in terms of awards, if you're tracking and making recaps the whole time, then you'll know, right? So for us, it was like we wanted to secure 3 to 5 media placements based on the nonprofit by name on message during the campaign. We gave ourselves a year to celebrate the anniversary. So big tip, don't just have one birthday party. Use that milestone all year long. And then secondly, 5 to 7 Big Give media placements. And if you're earning media, you know how hard that is these days, right? But when we hit 97, we're like, yeah, no. Because we could measure it and prove it.
Right.
But we know you all are very rigorous, so having all the metrics in place throughout the campaign will help measure the incremental successes that often we need to report to the clients so that they know they're on the right track.
Good answer. I think for us, we approach all of our work with a certain level of ambition, like how can we go above and beyond what we're being asked to do? And it's always like with a new client, how willing are they to listen to you? How willing are they to take your advice? How willing are they to spend a requisite amount of money to get the goal done? And we quickly found out, even though this was a new client, a family-owned business, that they were open to not just hearing from the media team on, well, this is where we need to place your creative, but let's meet with the creative team. Let's even talk to them about a rename. Do we need to rename ourselves? This was February 2023, so yeah, also post-COVID. They're an outdoor thing, so it felt like a good opportunity there. So certainly with all the metrics and all the tracking that we do, we knew that we were having success along the way. The amount of fun that we had doing it was like our reward also. So seeing the numbers come back in, and then undeniably this made a very measurable impact, but also it's looking at one another and say, we really did something different, had some fun, and elevated a mom and pop kind of shop to something that's where they should be, which is higher than like a larger nursery of Millburgers, certainly a Home Depot or a Lowe's. Like this is a different kind of specialty. So we definitely felt like we moved the needle for them. We were floored to have been recognized for Best of Show at the NEA. So certainly that was a surprise to all of us, even though we felt really great about the work.
Awesome. That's so cool. That's a perfect segue into my next question, because authenticity and differentiating yourself from the crowd is so important, especially when it comes to just running an effective campaign or at least resonating with your audience. You need to stand out. And then, of course, with awards, that's going to be a huge deal. So the next question is, what made your campaign stand out from your previous marketing or PR?
We found that, and kind of going back to what I said earlier, is that people weren't sure how much time and how much investment and what they needed to become a CASA volunteer. So we really did change up that messaging. So visually, you'll see a child, they look sad, because research said sad children help move the needle, unfortunately. But you'll see that visual. But as you're hearing the voiceover, it really is talking to that recruit. It really is talking to that potential volunteer and answering the questions that were actual hindrances for them. So aligning the research that we got, the messaging, and putting that in a different way into how we were trying to recruit volunteers, right up front answering the questions that were stopping them at the beginning. And then from the Don't Mess with Texas side, it's an established brand, right? So what new can you say? You have to come at it with a different take on it. So big names are great, like an Ethan Hawke, getting him out there. But coming to it from a humorous side as well. I mean, it's an anti-litter campaign, so how fun and sexy can you make that? Well, throw in a little Ethan Hawke and humor, and it really does make a difference on that as well.
Awesome. All right.
So with this campaign, it was the duality factor that made it so unique. I'll probably never forget it. Because I've never had, and I don't know if anyone's ever had, 2 anniversaries happening for a client at the same time. with very different audiences, right? So the nonprofit council itself would be this B2B type message that we need to figure out what resonated, because even nonprofits were hurting for money. So what would make them invest in this membership and this model? And then in terms of the give, that's B2B one part of the year, because we're trying to get more nonprofits from around the community to sign up. And again, it's a little bit of an investment of time, effort, and some funds on their part.
Mhm.
And then B2C, when ultimately we're getting to those end users and talking to individuals about giving. So there was a lot of back and forth and absolutely integrated. So we did paid, we did earned, we did shared, of course, we did owned, but then we had to keep moving around the message and the audiences and the anniversary language.
Awesome. I love that flexibility that we had to stay nimble. All right, Josh, it's all you.
Okay, all me. So for us, I think it's what we do every day for most of our clients is research, look into how we can reach people. So we were very confident moving forward that we could do this. So our creative team was informed by all the information our account service team and media team did for us to say, this is who you're targeting, this is how much money they make, this is where they live. We've got an incredible destination to drive people to, go be outside and be among curated pots from around the world. If you're in the market for a pot, you can't be disappointed. So how could we fail? So it was for the creative part of it was, it's got to be fun, it's got to be colorful, it's got to be engaging. We get to do video, we get to do Spotify radio, we get to do digital ads, social media, and outdoor board. So it was just a great opportunity to work together. And also, like I said before, have a client that was open to asking questions like, we might add fountains at some point. Should we not be called just pots? So having a little bit of a partnership there was really a great experience.
What was your favorite tactic out of that entire campaign?
Favorite tactic is probably the TV spot. We got to go out and we didn't have to rent a studio or, it wasn't about makeup. It was about this vast selection, a grid of a metric ton of tens of thousands of pots, color coordinating it and making it fun, telling people, wear comfortable shoes, don't come out here in heels, you're going to walk around a lot and have a great selection. So I think that was the most fun because in 30 seconds we could do so much more than just on a billboard or even in a social app.
That's awesome.
I guess for us, we always start, of course, with our strategic planners and move into insights. What made it different for the Hispanic Heritage Fund is the average Whataburger consumer, median age is 40. The average Hispanic age is under 40. And there's a propensity right now in both for the Gen Z as far as that's our future customer. So we kind of looked at this trading, and it was rancheras and wraps. And Snoop got into the game. He kind of crossed over and did that. A lot of others were doing it. So that was that was really fertile ground for us to do something. So we did the first ever video for Whataburger, combining those two, understanding that it was future-proofing the brand. And that's a lot of what we do is we future-proof brands, especially heritage brands. Heritage brands been for a while. They may have equity with the general market agents, consumers, but they don't have equity with the Hispanic consumer because the Hispanic consumer may not know anything about them. So it's telling the story in a way that's fun, engaging, and relevant. And that's kind of what we did, and that's what was different about this campaign.
Did you find that the metrics supported that outcome of reaching that multi-generational audience?
Correct, sir. Yeah, it spanned across, it crossed over to the general market. And everybody kind of, it's a Whataburger thing, and it's kind of where we're at and what's happening, it's trending. I mean, Peso Pluma played at Coachella, so hearing Spanish music now is not as uncommon as it was before. So having it's all about a good beat and good music, and that's what we ended up doing. And so people gravitated toward it. And of course, it had a selling message, but that was never our intent. Our intent was to entertain. I remember from Bill Bernbach and during the Volkswagen days, he's credited for this quote, but it wasn't him, it was one of his writers, that said, tell me something about a product or service, but in a way I've never heard it before. And that was our intent. That's the hardest thing for us to do. And that's what we strive and work for every day in our creativity. But it all starts with a team and having a strategic planner that's on point, giving you guidance on where you're going every day.
Knowing where you're going with a goal and an objective is so important because at the end of the day, the proof is going to be in the pudding, and you need to have that measurements or those KPIs, those metrics to justify or at least say, hey, we won, because someone's always going to be saying, prove it. So the next question is going to be, how do you measure those successes when it comes to ROI of the campaigns or when it comes to reaching those objectives? Because, in an awareness campaign, such as Josh was mentioning earlier, ROI may not be $1. It's going to be some other metric that you are following. So what are some of the ways that you measure the success?
I can jump in. Now you're pointing
I was looking right at you.
I know. I don't know. That's why I'm here. So I'm accredited in public relations, and so on the PRSA, your allies, on that side, we're very much trained to write measurable objectives that when you conquer those will help you reach your goal, right? So from that standpoint, it can be kind of easy because our objectives are set up in a way that we can track them and iterate as we need to throughout the campaign. Hey, this is not working, let's try this, let's evolve this, right? So for us, part of it is we have to get comfortable with our clients and digging a little deeper and helping them set up the goals they actually really need to be more future-proof or forward-thinking, right? So with the nonprofit council, we said, okay, tell us how much you want to raise. Well, we don't really like to set a number. We need to set a number. How much do you need to raise? And let's talk about why, right? And then what's the stretch goal? Okay, great. And then let's talk about how you're sustainable as an organization and with the give being so important to our community. So it wasn't just about big donors or one-off. We really wanted to help them grow their individual donors so that the next generation of community members who can help and give and become engaged with the nonprofits were brought in. And that's what's great about the Big Give. I'll always tell clients going after a Big Give campaign, find smaller tiers of giving that are possible, that are helpful. $7 equals a Meals on Wheels, right? That strategy is very important with Big Give. So we set goals around the individual donors, the overall amount of fundraising to be met, and then of course, how many nonprofits will actually participate in that event. And then there was actually goals around how many people do you want at your 20th anniversary event? What type of people should be at that event? Is it such an expense for you? So anything that's measurable and that can be pinned down, it's not always comfortable for clients, so kudos to you getting there with the small business owner, especially family owned, that can be a little harder, right? So, but it's important.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So for Texas CASA, obviously it's a recruitment campaign, so we are definitely looking at the number of volunteer application forms that are coming in and measuring that, and that's a really easy target for us to see and measure how we're doing. But awareness is a part of that as well. So measuring that, we like to do statewide surveys pre and post so that we understand where that awareness level was, of course, on those. And then another objective that the client had was really reaching a diverse audience. So they needed men, they needed people of color, they needed not just English speaking, but Spanish speaking. And we can't always just get that through our media information all the time, that we're hitting them the right way. So anyone that is submitting a volunteer application form, we are also providing them with a separate survey to try to get as much of that information from them. So we're able to measure that, but then also get a little bit more out of them too. So we're trying to see what mediums they're are listening to and watching more, and all of that to help the campaign in future months and years to come as well.
Was there ever a point where you had to push back, or at least kind of gently push them and say, hey, look, we need to consider this, or maybe that's not a goal that makes a whole lot of sense here?
So, I mean, they were focused on recruitment, and we're like, we really got to start it with what a CASA is. It's sometimes hard for a client, like people know who we are. And it's like, well, we did the research and it's a little not perfect on them knowing exactly what a CASA is. So I will say we did have to say, no, we really do need to start very broad in that funnel with awareness. We can't go straight into just that recruitment ask. So yeah, just making the client realize that and showing that the numbers prove it.
Nice.
I guess for us, it was reach, return on ad investment. VCR, the video completion rate of the video was 90%, which is incredible for
That
us.
is crazy.
We were happy about that. And of course, the digital transactions. But going back to it, was the biggest success was actually when it becomes something that transcends and goes into the company, and people are proud of working at Whataburger, and they wore that thing as a badge of honor and shared it with their friends and stuff like that. That we knew it really resonated with them.
So the brand evangelism is something that we were just on target with.
Yes.
So the segments that you're talking about, were they generally within the 15 to 30 second, or did you have any longer segments?
We have a case study video that you can share if you like after this. So there was a short segment that was 30 seconds long, and it was Hispanic Heritage Month. We hired artists from all over the country, all over our footprint, that did different sort of things. One person did a hat, another guy did a mural, and then we went in depth with them, and we talked to them, how do you put your extra extra? Because that was part of the campaign. So what is it that makes you special? What is it that contribute to the United States as a consumer? And then also, what extra do you put on your hamburger to tie it all in and wrap it all in with a nice bow, right? We are selling at the end. But it was more heartfelt and authentic in the voice that we had. And I think that's what really resonated. We never forced issues, we never pushed anything. And it was really something that was genuine and important.
Well, perfect. So in the vein of heartfelt, because you're right now kind of my man helping me with these transitions, but whenever you're talking about strategic marketing and objectives, you get a little cold because you're looking at a number, you're looking at something that's hard, data driven. But there has to be a balance with creativity. You have to be, you have to look outside the box. I hate that phrase, but it's true. You have to get a little crazy, because I feel like that, at least in marketing, if you're not pissing someone off, you're not doing your job. So when it comes to balancing creativity with strategic marketing objectives, how do you do it? I won't make it awkward again this time. I'll look somewhere else.
I'll take it. And for us, it starts with a single-minded brand proposition. We have 2-minute messages to say. Clients will come to you with 2 or 3 different messages, but you have to narrow it down to one. And that's usually, we have a strategic planning team, and that's how we get into that insight. Once we have the insight, then we discuss the different RTBs for that value proposition, your KPIs, and we come back with a comp strategy on what are the best channels in order for us to do this. So for us, it's never really a balancing act. It's more slowing down a process that is never the same, but has guardrails in order to protect you, and also getting the client to understand the brief, approve the brief, and therefore to get the brief, you're able to move forward with the creative, right? And that's the way it tends to work. Not usually always the case, but that's with our clients. We've been fortunate enough to have clients that understand the process and work alongside with the process of us. We've been very blessed in that manner.
I love that. Perfect.
Could you restate the question again?
Sure. How do you balance creativity?
Thank
Balance,
you.
yes.
Yeah, that was the word I couldn't remember. So for us, it certainly helps when you have a client that, we do plenty of work for clients that just want an execution and not a more holistic approach, to take a step back and say, okay, you need a website, but what's really the overall goal? So of course the overall goal with our campaign is a little more cut and dry than my colleagues here, which is sell more pots, 3 words. So for the creative part of it, when you have a creative brief that's informed by research, who the target audience is, and what the goals are, and what the current competitive landscape is, it makes the creative part of it actually a whole lot easier, because it becomes less subjective and more about, does this creative approach answer these questions in the creative brief, yes or no? So go through down the list, and maybe the last one is it offensive, yes or no? And hopefully the answer is no. So I think that's, for us, is that internal process of, well, let's start with the basic goals. What are we trying to do? What are we trying to accomplish? And here are a few creative ways to approach it. So through that process, I think it balanced itself out anyways, because we wouldn't present a creative idea if we didn't feel as a creative team it matched up with the overall plan.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you.
I'll jump in there because I know I have some creatives up here. I'm coming from the account service side. We do start, I'm looking at my chief strategy officer right now. We start with strategy. So the hope is when it gets the creative team to really open their minds up, think outside of the box. In our case, we put a child in a box in our commercial, so it's in the box, but
Is it transparent?
it's a transparent box that shatters away. So we start, of course, very similarly with that same process, but it does get to the creative team, and we want them to be creative. We don't want them to be, so like, oh, I can't do this or can't do that. So we want them to open it up. And from the counselor side, I sometimes have to be the dream killer and say, let's bring it back in. This is a great idea. But we try to also balance out, that is a great idea, maybe not for this campaign and this objective, but maybe it can move into, for the same client, but a different one. We're specifically working on recruitment here, but this could work in a different part too. So still allowing the team to be as open as they can with their ideas. All ideas are good ideas, maybe just not for this exact one. Let's push it over here and see if it can go somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think the editorial process doesn't just apply to like print and copy and stuff. It's for video too, and you have all these great ideas, and before you know it, you've got 3 minutes worth of video, and you only have 15 seconds. You're like, crap. And you do have to get kind of merciless when you start to axe away or trim that fat.
So I always think with that public relations point of view, so I'm trying not to piss anybody off. And we come in to clean up when we do sometimes. So with that in mind, the framework for me is, I think a lot of times people don't assume I'm creative. And I'm super creative. I've worked with Ruben and Erica in this room, and they know. I'm like, I might as well be the creative director. They're like, I'm here to do this. Yeah, but the strategy is here. And this is a messaging strategy. This visual doesn't say I'm a trusted service provider. Okay, so we need to change it. And so I think it's marrying the principles of best practice work, of what we know fundamentally is always going to help us in this craft, with the extras, right? So you got to make a good burger before you throw a lot of extra stuff on it, or it won't matter. So that's how I kind of think about that, is that once I know the overall strategy and then the messaging strategy that helps me get to that strategy, then I'll use, my background in poetry to make the copy kind of pop and hit you in the heart, and you're like, oh, I care, right? But I'm always thinking very future-proof and forward-thinking, as we've talked about, is, how is this going to help me help the client, not just now, but in the future, and build that long-term relationship, which can be tricky because sometimes that's hard for the clients to wait for it to develop, right? So, but it's our ultimate goal is to be snazzy with substance.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you so much. So when it comes to submitting for awards or finding out that you've won an award or at least been nominated for an award, just real quick, or at least sum up, give us an idea of the reaction or the interaction between your teams when they hear this news.
Lots of virtual high fives, a lot of I knew it, and I didn't answer the question earlier how you knew it clicked. And sometimes, especially from the account service side, the creative team is so in depth with the visuals and how it's going to look. And then when I get to see it, and I really, even though I've seen the storyboards, I was there at the shoot and everything, but I kind of see that finished product put together, and that emotional connection just hits, and you kind of know, like, that was a good one. That was a really good one. So just that sense of pride with the team, that sense of we knew it, and all of the hard work and long days that went into it, it's just a time for everyone to celebrate for sure and know that we did a really good job for our client.
Nostalgia for us, because I'm sure all of you are in the same boat. You're working on the here and now, and so when it becomes award season, you're finally kind of like forced to step back and think, what fits, especially for American Marketing Association, where it's not just about the creative, it's about results. So there's a lot of work that we do that, we kind of self-eliminate. Well, I can't tell you how well this worked because it just doesn't fit these parameters. But for this particular campaign, it was a lot of instant joy. And man, you got to be kidding me, because we thought we were just having some fun, and of course we had responsibility to our client, felt like we did a great job, but then as we started looking at the results and the tactical X's and O's of what ended up happening and the increase of sales, then we all felt like, wow, this is actually, this is what the AMAs were made for. It's a local thing for a local company, led by a local agency, and we felt really, really great about it. So, yeah.
For the last 10 years, we awarded awards. It was in the last 3 years that we started entering awards, and kind of the reason we did it is locally we weren't known in the San Antonio market, so we wanted to recruit San Antonio talent. That's one of our goals and missions. We wanted to work with San Antonio companies. That was one of our goals and missions. How do we celebrate? We always celebrate as a team because we do everything as a team. And we stopped a while and we kind of, we have a bar in our office, we have a favorite cat, and we also have blue ice cream. And we enjoy the moment, and we celebrate together as a team.
So with if any of you know me closely, you know I started a business so I could work out of my home office, which is great. I get to do deep work and not be interrupted all the time because I'm too extroverted to be in an office anymore. So it's a little lonely sometimes. I'm like, woo! Except for AMAs, because that's super like Hunger Games. It feels awful sitting at those tables like, I'm sorry I won, I'm sorry you won. Like, it's just terrible. I'm sorry. But of course proud. And it's nice to have that peer review by industry peers outside of the market that don't know these clients sometimes, don't know these brands to go, yeah, this was a great approach. Well done, right? So that's nice. But definitely whenever we win these, we communicate and promote them to honor the client, to honor their trust in us, to deepen that relationship, and to prove that we're trustworthy for future work and clients. So I think maximizing that for both their good, your good, and your current client's good is really important.
Absolutely. So one of the questions that I added towards the end of our canned questions was staying ahead of the competition, kind of differentiating yourself from the crowd. So how do you stay ahead of, say, industry trends when you're moving forward to create award-worthy campaigns? What's something that you do to kind of, stay ahead of the competition? Because marketing is certainly one of those industries where if you kind of just sit on your laurels, you are going to get instantly behind.
I'll go first. So one of our core values is a spirit of discovery. That's for our clients and our relationship with our clients, but also our own employees that, like you just said, if you rest on what you know, then, enjoy your rest because you're going to be resting for a while. So one of the things we do that I think is really great is bring some of our younger, more junior level employees to the table, to bring a diversity of thought and a new perspective. Like, well, I think of myself as a young person, but that's not really true anymore. So to have someone come in that has generally been briefed on the challenge, and to challenge them to go out and find best-in-class examples of stuff that caught their eye for one reason or the other, and what did someone else do? Doesn't matter what the industry was, or if it's even related in any way, shape, or form. So to have that come in and kind of just a little bit of a breath of fresh air and a new perspective, like to step back out of the day-to-day of trying to churn out ideas, whether they're creative, media tactics, or executions, whatever it might be, to see what other people are doing is a great resource, for inspiration.
Yeah, so we also have a similar value: develop yourself and others, because you're never done developing. You're always constantly learning new things. So we do have these things called Training Tuesdays, where we like to bring these random topics that we want to learn a little bit more about, and everyone's invited to learn a little bit about it. So it's definitely keeping that knowledge there. But I will say it's also very amazing partners that we have on our digital media side, as well as on our production side, when we come to them with like, hey, here's the ideas that we have and want to move forward with. They also can bring their best knowledge to the table and their expertise and really help push that partnership a little bit further too. And we learn a lot from them all the time.
Yeah, well, again, I'm a PR geek, enthusiast, evangelist, so I write for PRC at the national level, so I'm always researching topics and what's coming, what's ahead. I think when you do a lot of strategic planning like we do, you're able to connect dots in a unique way. So that's been very helpful to kind of say, okay, I see a pattern here. I think this is what's around the corner, right? But sometimes it is the fundamentals of what people need that we forget in all the shiny new chaos of our lives. So sometimes that can feel new to folks as well. But investing in myself, speaking, I learn a lot by preparing to speak. I had to go back over, you were talking, Josh, before. I'm like, I don't even remember what okay, let me look, right? But reading a ton of industry publications, writing for one, or writing a book. I mean, you have to do a lot of self-work to be creative in the way that is going to be helpful and forward-thinking.
For us, I'm so blessed to have people that love the craft. So you'll always find a magazine around them. People are always talking about work. People are always sharing work. And one of the things that we do at our agency, we really support people's passions. Whether it's playing music, we have people that are stand-up comedians, we have people that are authors who support those things because in some way it's creativity that comes back. And it's always going to different roads and different paths that you get to be passionate. And it's by supporting and empowering people. And we're currently working, we're trying to do it once a year. We do a nonprofit effort. And it's usually for one of our employees that has a passion for it. So they're passion projects for us. And that's when we say, okay, it's a passion project. How do we get people to move on it? What can we do? You're totally empowered to do it. And we kind of empower the team to do whatever they want. Now, for the most part, we keep their hands off it and let them do it and let them experience what it's like in order to both they learn from the client because they're directly facing, but they also get the fulfillment of seeing something complete that was just a thought or that was not doable, and sometimes it's funded by the agency because the client doesn't have the money. But it's making those realities, and it doesn't just have to do with creatives. It could be an account service person that has this idea and we all rally behind it. So it's just having this innate love for the craft.
Awesome. Okay, thank you so much. So I have one more question before I open it up to everybody. So that's kind of your little warning to have your questions ready. The question that I have is, you're all amazing rock stars up here, and I'm not saying that like, you're a unique special snowflake just like everybody else. You've actually won awards for these campaigns, so you're legit, okay? And we're looking up to you right now. So in terms of the campaign that won an award, what is the one piece of advice that you can give all the marketing professionals, sales professionals, HR executive, what have you? What's the one piece of, what's the one takeaway or one piece of advice you could give them that was relevant to this campaign?
Teamwork.
We've touched on it already, but starting from the beginning, knowing what your objectives are and making sure that you can measure them at the end, because as you mentioned, I mean, you've got to show the results at the end of the day, so making sure you're starting with that up front.
I'll add to those two and piggyback, and I'll just say simplicity.
Okay.
There's so much we want to say, there's so much you can say, you can't do that. So the act of getting something that is simple, that means there's nothing more you can take away, not so much simple, it's because you can't add anything else, I think is a good approach, especially from a creative standpoint.
I'd boil it down to a phrase, dig deeper. There's a lot of times, I mean, you made a joke about ChatGPT, and I'll go on record, I've had webinars and trainings about ChatGPT, copyright law, and why we should still work hard to be the best writer in the room. And a lot of times I'll tell my team, I'm like, okay, let's try that again. Dig a little deeper. Like, why does this matter? You should be asking why a lot. What's missing? Who's missing? Why does this matter? Why should people care? So just digging a little deeper.
Thank you so much. All right. Question time. Who's got a question? We've got Judy Jackson over here with the mic. And I think Mike, or I think we've got Ruben, sorry.
Hi, thank you. Great presentation. Thank you. So my question is, what was your main challenge in moving that needle? Your roadblocks, challenges, horrible stories.
Okay, well, I mean, I think when you're digging deeper, sometimes it doesn't feel good. that's a big challenge with clients, right? So setting up that budget and working through that, especially with small businesses and nonprofits, that's going to be one hurdle. But keeping folks on strategy, on purpose, thoughtfully engaged, it takes a lot of conscious and cognitive energy and capacity. So for me, it's driving forward despite challenges and staying on the right path.
I'll say trust, even though this particular client was one that came to us with a pretty open mind and looking for expert advice. When it comes down to these are the tactics that we think are going to be the most effective, and it's things that they shouldn't nor would they have any idea how this stuff works, and portraying yourself in a trustworthy way, being an expert, not talking above someone and having that educational role, like this is why we're suggesting this, here's how it will work, and here's how it'll enable us to report back to you on how effective this was. And doing that in a way that's, kind, makes sense, calm. So I think that all kind of builds up to trust.
I'll say budget. We want to be amazing and we want to do these amazing things. We also have the reality of budget at the end of the day. So how do we maximize that budget? And for us, we're working, the ones I talked about today was a nonprofit. So we're working on a nonprofit budget, or we're working with a state agency budget as well. So they definitely have parameters and guardrails that we have to work with there. So how do we be as amazing as we can, win these awards at the end of the day, but also still keep it in check. So always that balance there.
Budget always comes into play, but you can still do it. And that's a challenge that I give them. Don't give me budget as an excuse. Make it great. I mean, that's what we started for.
Dig deeper.
Thanks for coming out, y'all. It was a good segue because I had a question around budgets. It was mainly along the lines of like, what type of budgets were you working with? And if it was a limited budget, how did you do a lot with a little? Or if you had a healthy budget, it sounds like maybe this half of the table didn't have that. How did you use that budget without, how did you want to allocate that budget without diluting the campaign and doing too much?
Okay. So I'll say for us, when it comes for productions, the biggest thing, right, for us to spend money on, and we have a huge name with Don't Mess with Texas, like Ethan Hawke. So obviously we have a healthy budget on there. We do work with them as well because it is working for this PSA that we're getting to. So we do have some negotiating power in a way. But for us, it's then we're spending all this on this big name, but maybe we can't have 5 different locations that we're filming at, so what can we do the best with one location? And that's really where we try to find what we can do. Honestly, I'll say for our Casa spot as well, we thought we were really going to only focus on one child and planned on a budget of that, and the client was like, no, I want diversity, I want different ages of children, so it was a larger number of talent, parents, all of that we had to include. And how did we adjust it? We found a set that we could really use with a local partner here in town and really could minimize how much money we were spending on that by finding the right solution to do all of that shoot in one day at one location, but not make it look like that on camera.
I actually wrote down my budget numbers because I was afraid someone would ask about budget. I don't like to talk about budget. With this client, working through that, look, this is going to be an infrastructure building year, an investment year. So let's think of it that way. And for me, since I come with that PR point of view, I'm thinking about the stories. I'm thinking about the strategic partnerships, community relations, and relationship building, which is all, right, time, but not necessarily paid. And so we use our advertising budget, the paid budget, to kind of complement. That is our extra, to be extra about that. So for us, with that budget for the year and advertising costs, that was, we came in under budget, about $1,700. Spent just a little over $19,000 in advertising for Big Give advertising, and about $738.20 for one of the TNC advertising pushes that we had through the year. So most of it was earned via media and newsworthy criteria and understanding what they're looking for and how it helps the community. So we look at, and I believe now, you always have to have a paid budget, but how can that be complementary to other strategies?
So from Melissa, who has down to the penny, to the creative guy who was told, "Don't worry about the budget, Marcus." So this was a reasonable budget that we had, but I think the success really came down to the planning, especially of a single shoot day at one location to get as many assets as we could. Not making it miserable on everyone, but we spent one day getting video and also still photography done of pots, the most beautiful pots they had there. Thankfully, they had a staff there that is used to moving big old heavy pots. They've got a golf cart, so we're like, okay, we can make this work if we plan it right to get enough assets to come away with enough video and then enough still photography that we could pull from all the various assets that we needed to produce. So really it came down to a day of planning that gave us almost everything we needed to be creative and successful in that way.
I work with very tight budgets. Our thing was always shot in a day. I have an in-house studio. People are just passionate about what they're doing and they get extra time. And we don't work in a 9 to 5 hour business. And sometimes you have to put in the extra hours so teamwork comes in. And we have budget constraints just like anybody else. And then we have a comm strategy to make sure we're in budget. We always try to put in budget or under budget or even how we do. We're very conscious of budget, especially as an Hispanic marketing agency. That is the one thing that people always want to know is that they're going to get ROI. If they're going to cut one thing first, it's going to be the Hispanic creative part of it. So budget-wise, we're very gritty whatever we do. We just don't make it look that way.
We have time for one more question, and then we're going to release them out to the wild. So anybody that didn't have a question answered, hit them up. They're going to be here.
Hi, thank you very much for your comments and insights, and congratulations to all of you. My question is really for Marcus. Whataburger has a really fun app. I get lots of little notifications. Yesterday was National Cheeseburger Day, or is that today? Did you have any integration with the app? And by the way, I totally customized my burger.
Whataburger is segmented in different teams. So as far as the LTOs or limited time offers, those are done by other teams, but we are aware of them and we do push out ads or your target or what have you. We do it for the shake, we did the Kids Eat Free. We're getting more and more into promoting. Also, we're going to come out with a couple of great burgers that are new that we're working with that are really exciting. So you'll expect to see more from Whataburger, recognizing you as fans and rewarding you for being fans.
Okay, I lied. We have one more question.
Hi. Challenges that you and your team went through doing these campaigns and elements that you can share that you can inspire others. And by the way,
I'm going to bet. Budget. When we first came back, we had all these ideas, all these great ideas, right? And then you put them all on the board, then you come with the comm strategy or the communication strategy. What can you really afford to do? Then you narrow it down. You say that okay, it's so over budget, how do you afford to do it? And you break it down further, you simplify it. And then what are the best touch points? How do you get the maximum reach for it in order to increase the dollar? And that's what it comes down to without losing the integrity of the campaign. And that's the hardest part because that's when the discussions come in of what do you take away, but it's so vital to the story or the narrative that we're trying to do. And that is the hardest part from a creative perspective, and that's usually a team conference that we have, or with our account planners or whatever else, and everybody, in order to make sure that we still bring up the strongest narrative, because we're always going to have pushback. And that's just the reality of where we're at in my organization.
I'll jump in. So the main challenges I would say is one, and I think we've all been through it, when the client is very interested in launching a product that you don't think is going to do well, and you have to manage their expectations, right? So I can have a slick marketing campaign, we can do advertising around it, I can try to tell a PR story, but here's why I don't exactly think this is newsworthy, because it's for cost, right? And it doesn't meet these other criteria. So being careful and compassionate but a leader in that space was a challenge. And, you know, unfortunately, I was right. But again, that can feel bad for a client, and sometimes that can end an engagement. You know, I've seen it, right? So you have to find, am I a good fit for you, client? Are you going to take that strategic advice and counsel? The other major issue we're having in my side of the house in the industry is media relations is a drying up, like, ocean. It is gone. It's went from an ocean where I knew, hey, this is going to be a great story. This reporter will love it, da da da. 2 decades later, I'm sitting on a little bitty Medina Lake going, I don't know what happened here. It didn't used to be this way, right? So being very creative with the surface you're in, I think is important too. So that was an ongoing challenge last year, and it's a huge challenge this year.
I'll just go with accepting that which you cannot control. Specifically in this case, our client had an existing website that was wanting. So we had to figure out the best place to spend their money. And so while we were able to help them do a little bit of an e-commerce launch on their website, the real goal we all knew was they're going to do the most sales there in person. They're big, heavy pots. They'll deliver to you, but you got to be there to see them. That's kind of part of the experience. So we didn't work around the website per se, but we knew that was a weak spot. But because we knew that if we met our ultimate goal of getting people to the location, clicks, calls, and visits, whatever that is, that they would come through on the promise to say, we got a great selection, we got friendly people, it's a good experience. So just letting go of, well, we wish we really could fix this one thing, which normally would say, get your website fixed now. So that was a unique kind of twist on our normal approach too.
And I'll answer quickly. We've kind of already touched on budget, making sure we're staying in budget and how that looks. But our kind of fun story we laugh about now is we had this concept about the child wanting them to look isolated, and how we were going to do that. Wanted to put them in a box. And how we were going to put them in the box. Had a lot of different ideas and challenges of how to do that. And it was finding the right special effects partner from the production side of things that really made that come to life. So leaning into, we had this great idea and we just didn't know how to do it. Are we going to put the kid in an actual box? We found the right partner to help us bring it to life exactly how we want it. So yeah.
All right, that wraps up our. Thanks, John. Thank you.